Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are doing something pretty ambitious. We've essentially built a complete course covering all the core topics, synthesizing an entire developer bootcamp curriculum into one cohesive journey. So grab a coffee and let's jump right in to see how all the pieces fit together.
Let's kick things off with a massive question, right? What does it actually take to build the modern digital world? Every single day, you and I interact with this incredibly complex, layered digital ecosystem. It starts right there at the physical screen you're looking at right now, and it stretches all the way down to those silent, intricate algorithms just humming away in the background.
So here's our game plan for today's masterclass. We'll start by structuring the front end, then move into powering the back-end systems, step things up with Python and object orientation, and finally, we'll wrap up by exploring artificial intelligence and search.
All right, section 1, structuring the front end. Let's look at some HTML and CSS basics. It is honestly incredible how streamlined things have become over the years. Modern HTML5 completely ditched those old, clunky, standard generalized markup language rules. Because of that, you no longer need a crazy, complex reference to a document type definition. Now, you just need a simple case-insensitive doctype declaration. Literally just bracket, exclamation point, doctype HTML bracket. That's the whole shebang to set a solid foundation and get your web document rolling.
And looking at how we lay things out, the evolution is just brilliant. We used to rely on this rigid HTML table markup, which basically forced you to mash your data structure and your presentation together into one big mess. But compare that old way to modern CSS display properties, things like display table and display table cell. This was an absolute game changer. It allows us to keep the actual content completely separate from the styling, which makes your code infinitely more flexible and, frankly, much easier to read. Moving right along to section 2, powering the back-end systems. We're talking Java and C++.
Now, the absolute crucial point to understand here is that Java isn't just some monolithic, one-size-fits-all thing. Its massive ecosystem is actually carved up into 4 distinct platforms. You've got your standard edition for the core API stuff, your enterprise edition, micro edition, and Java FX. And why? Well, because each one serves an entirely different hardware and software environment. They provide the exact virtual machine and API needed for that specific domain.
Okay, diving even deeper, right down to the bare metal, we hit C++. Now, the C++11 standard literally revolutionized systems programming. I mean, it brought in these incredibly powerful standard library extensions. We got unique and shared pointers for safer memory management, regular expressions, but actually, the biggest deal? The concurrency tools. C++11 finally gave us a memory model with portable ways to synchronize access in multi-threaded environments. We're talking brand new tools like atomic operations and mutual exclusion, which is absolutely huge for performance.
All right, taking a step back up the stack, section 3, Python and object orientation. Taking a deep dive, like a full Python 3 bootcamp, allows you to grasp some seriously complex topics really rapidly. Because of Python's highly readable syntax, you can transition so smoothly from just hacking together basic scripts to engineering fully object-oriented applications. You can build games, tap into advanced features like the collections module, or use decorators, all without tearing your hair out over the syntax. Let's look at how this actually plays out with a simple book class example. You can clearly see the exact step-by-step process Python uses to elegantly encapsulate data. First off, you initialize your properties using that famous _init method, the dunder_init. Second, you define your getters using the @property decorator. And third, you set up your setters with the @setter decorator. It's just this beautifully structured, safe way to make absolutely sure your object's internal data is managed perfectly. And finally, we reach the apex of our tech stack, section 4, artificial intelligence and search. The father of AI himself, John McCarthy, laid out this incredibly clear definition for the entire field. He called it the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer programs. So, simply put, it's our ongoing, relentless pursuit to make computers do things which, at least for the moment, we humans still do better. Now, if we break down the fundamental architecture of an AI agent, it basically operates on a continuous, never-ending loop. The agent relies on sensors to take in what we call percepts, essentially just gathering data from its environment. Then, it processes all that raw information using its internal logic to figure out the absolute best move. And finally, it uses actuators to perform actions back out onto that very same environment.
So how does AI categorize the actual work it's doing? Well, it basically splits its focus into two main buckets. On one side, you have commonplace tasks. These are the mundane things you and I do effortlessly and completely take for granted. Stuff like recognizing a friend's face, understanding a sentence, or just walking around a puddle on the street. But on the flip side, you have expert tasks. These demand highly complex, really domain-specific problem solving.
And to actually solve those incredibly complex tasks, AI relies heavily on something called search. Basically, that's the systematic examination of states to find a clear path from your starting point to your goal. But here's the catch. Examining every single possibility would literally take forever and eat up all your memory. So instead, AI uses heuristic algorithms. Think of them as these super intelligent tour guides that help the system efficiently navigate toward a solution without having to manually check every single dead-end path along the way.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a mind bender about where all this structured logic is inevitably taking us. As our tech stack becomes more and more advanced, and our code literally starts learning to write itself through these AI models and heuristics, will the ultimate developer bootcamp eventually be taught by the very machines we built? It is a pretty wild thought to end on, right? Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope this helped you better understand the incredible architecture powering our digital world.